Hello and welcome back to Tea Time. We're back again with the immaculate Admiral Paco, who has not committed war crimes.
Stop telling me... No, stop telling others about the war crimes that I may or may not have committed.
We don't speak of the Great Pudding Cup War. We just don't. And
many were lost.
so many good pudding cups were never eaten. And
Sad time. Anyhow.
And we're here today to talk about good media versus bad media in the sense of, you watched it.
It was a thing that was created and seen.
And this came about the fact that I have been rewatching The Dragon Prince on Netflix because season 4 came out. So I'm just trying to refresh my brain, and I had to look it up. This series originally aired on Netflix in 2018. It took a whole nother year for season 2 to come out, and then in the middle of that same year, 2019, it came out for season 3, and now season 4 came out in 2022 after a 3-year hiatus. So it's been a while.
Yeah, there was a small gap in time between season 3 and 4. Now, I will acknowledge I was not aware of this series at all when Hella brought it up to me. But she described it as being good, but meh. And I said, well, that's better than bad anything media. And so now we're having a tea time about that.
So, before the recording, I made the joke, it's like, I mean, Steven Universe was also okay bad media. Like, as somebody who hardcore missed it and then played catch up on it after everything was done, I can sit there and say, I understand what was trying to be said, but maybe less time should have been focused on the human characters. Like, I really didn't give a fuck about the human characters in Steven Universe.
That was another series that I completely missed. All I heard was that it was good.
Oh, it had good ideas and, like, good themes that it wanted to push. It's just, it was executed poorly. And I feel like it was executed poorly is because you picked the worst network to put your show on, Rebecca Sugar. It's Cartoon Network.
Mistakes were made.
Not by us, of course. Just in general, mistakes were made.
Yes, of course. No mistakes were made in the Great Pudding War.
Except the time we forgot spoons. That was the only mistake.
True.
Oh, hello, Key. Sorry, my cat just wandered in, so...
That is a very high priority and must be acknowledged. But I do think that, kind of how we perceive media, whether it is good or bad, and in what, and in what ways that it might have tried to do something really interesting, but ultimately landed flat on its face, can lead to media still being like, well, this tried to do a cool thing, but it didn't do it well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, the reason why I said The Dragon Prince was okay, but it was like, is because me and you play D&D, so a lot of this stuff is like, ooh, this is really D&D based, and I can tell, because there's moon elves, there's sun elves, there's star elves, there's deep forest elves, there's there's water elves. It's like, how deep into the D&D book did you guys go?
Was this your inspiration?
Well, it's because, right, a long, long time ago, spoilers, I guess, if you haven't seen Dragon Prince, but also, get a friend.
I will accept that. It's a series that's been out for 5 years.
Yeah, like...
I haven't watched it. It's my fault.
Yeah, so spoilers, a long, long time ago in the Great Before, humans got magic because an elf gave the magic when he wasn't supposed to, and that was the worst decision ever. This action will have consequences, long-lasting and very tried and true. So the humans and the magical people, the dragons, the elves, and all that other jazz, are separated from each other by a holy fuck mountainscape. That's it. That's all that separates them. And through the power of some shenanigans, the Dragon Prince that they thought was murdered in the Great Cataclysm War has actually just been an egg this entire time, chilling with the humans that they've been keeping it hush-hush secret about, and now they're trying to get the dragon egg back to its mother that's on the other side of these holy fuck mountains.
Interesting.
Again, this is a very interesting concept, but also, I think I've seen this before. I think I played this D&D campaign before. Which is not to say it's a bad thing, right? Like, look, if you know your audience, we'll sit there and watch anything.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, and as I talked about in the last tea time that we had on Star Wars, that there are many of those movies that were executed quite badly, but had a very interesting premise to them.
Yes. The idea that the Force is this all-powerful, all-magical thing that anybody can get, and then they fucked it up because midichlorians. What?
Yep. Yeah.
Your explanation has ruined this somehow for me.
Yeah. Well, and not to mention the whole idea in the prequel movies of, hey, we're going to show how the Republic collapsed into the Empire. Like, and how, well, and alongside that as an individual, how Anakin Skywalker went from being a Jedi into being a Sith Lord, the villain. That's a really interesting premise.
And what did we do with it?
Executed very well.
And what did we do with it? Oh, we did a lot of war crimes that maybe should have not been implied on screen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, Anakin Skywalker literally looked at the screen and said, with all the disrespect, fuck them kids.
Yep. Yep.
And I think the only interesting thing that I can make note of, considering I've been watching it, and I think I'm on episode like 3 or 4, elves in this universe for Dragon Prince don't have 5 fingers. They only have 4. So they're missing a finger. So that's what distinguishes them, other than the pointy ears and the fact that they grow horns, from humans. And I was like, okay, it's an interesting take. I'll take it. And yet it never not once comes up as mayhaps this might be an issue. It's never brought up.
Of having 4 fingers?
It isn't. Other than one time when the, one of the princes is just looking at her, the elf that's on their quest, because she got out of something, and he was like, how did you get out of that? And she looks at him, she goes, I have 4 fingers, you guys only make stuff built for 5. And it's like, okay, that's funny, because it's indicating human stuff that would keep us human beings locked in like handcuffs don't mean shit to elves because they don't have as many fingers to try and bend and pull out. But I think that's only in one episode. I'll let you know later on in the week if that changes, but realistically,
as additional episodes are watched,
right,
we'll see if more references are made.
And I think the reason why, because as a writer, right, like, this is a brand new fantasy world, meaning you kind of have to start to establish some of your stuff, because I'm here new. They only make an issue of it in the first episode when a really young captain of the guard is teaching the studious prince, Callum. He's teaching him how to sword fight, and he's like, you are so bad at this. I think that even Sun Elf armor is stronger than you. And I was like, this right here, this indicates that supposedly humans are aware that Sun Elves have really, really strong armor, which is a good little piece of exposition to give to the audience.
Yeah.
I'm on episode 4. I'm still waiting for more exposition.
Oh dear.
Like,
So there is a bit of a lack of expositional world building.
Well, they make it a point to really explain the magic system, which I'm kind of glad. But also, they do a piss poor job of it. Because they're like, oh, well, moon elves can use the magic of the moon all the time except during new moons to do all kinds of cool stuff. And I was like, would moon elves not give a shit if the moon was full or not? Like, that sounds like some human magic limitation. Like, we need to be able to draw light from the moon to use it. Whereas they're born from it, they don't give a fuck. But no, the moon must also be fully exposed. I beg you to go back and recheck your magic system. Sorry, I have a friend over. Hold on. Bless you! But yeah, do you know what I mean? It's like, maybe you should explain that a little bit more. Because supposedly sun elves in this... Thanks, editor. I love my editor so much. We were talking about this. He goes, yeah, sun elves in this can just take lava right to the face and not be burned by it. And I was like, okay, how? Like, this is more exposition shit. Like, explain it to me. How?
This is important information that I need to understand as to why this is the case.
Right? Because I'm like, if I heard the term sun elf, I would assume they are definitely caught in, like, a catch-22 as far as magic goes, because it's only when the sun is out, because you wouldn't be able to draw from the moon. But no, I'm feeling like these are fire elves. Like, they took lava right to the face and nothing happened. That's a fire elf. You guys need to get your shit correct.
Yeah. Yeah, from what you're describing, it seems as if there is a little bit of a breakdown in terms of the naming convention and the implications of what that means for the world building.
Yeah, it does. Like, supposedly, in this world, thanks again, editor. Like, everything I would tell you, the editor told me, because I messaged him and told him this is what I was going to be talking about on a tea time. I need some background info because I straight up have forgotten stuff, and he was like, I got you. So he's like, in this world, moon elves specifically are assassins. They're really good at it. I was like, oh, cool, because they're nighttime, right? Like, they're not awake during the day. He goes, no. And I was like, what? He's like, no. Moon elves are awake during daylight hours as well. It's like, but why?
But why?
No, do you know what I mean? That is literally a question I asked because I was like, okay. If I heard the term sun or moon elf, I would assume that there are limitations that come with both. Sun elves, weak as fuck during nighttime because they have no sun to draw power from. Also, eclipses would be middle fingering them hard because it would be daytime still, but they couldn't access their power. Reverse side of that would be moon elves. They wouldn't be able to do anything during the daytime because that's not what their magic is geared to, so they would realistically be a nighttime race. They wouldn't be up in the daytime.
Yep. And I am agreeing with you on this, on the premise of my understanding of the magic system, from the context that you've said thus far, which is that their magic is dependent on some outside source, whether that is the moon or sun or something.
Right. But so far, from what I've seen, that is not the case. And again, the editor told me dragons are also elemental based and they're also kneecapped by that element. And I was like, but there's a dragon king, queen, and prince. Would this not indicate that dragons would have, like, the avatar state? Like, they can use all the elements? That's why they're royalty in this universe? Is that not how this works?
At the very least, having the series provide a little bit more exposition by at least episode 4 to explain some of these concepts certainly seems like a missed opportunity.
Right. Like, the only thing I've gotten so far from the magic is humans are not naturally geared towards it, so the only way humans can perform magic is by literally performing murder hobo shit to steal life force to do magic. And I was like, alright, I feel like that's more dark magic. I feel like if you studied really hard, you'd be able to do magic. Right? There's gotta be a middle ground, guys. I feel like if humans can only do dark magic, elves would have never taught us shit.
Yeah. Or depending on where the magic is actually being drawn from. And how it functions. Like, I don't remember if I mentioned this during the last tea time, that my wife and I have been working on a book that takes place in a fantasy universe, and there is a magic system in that universe that, to oversimplify it, it is based on, there are specific locations or that magic is sourced from, so to speak. And so the farther away that you are from that location, the less ability you have to access the magic. However, if you bring a piece of the magic infused stone with you, you are able to use that to channel magic from the farther across distance. But if you channel too much magic through it, you can shatter it, and then you don't get to use the magic anymore because you have broken the thing that you're using to channel the magic across from a larger distance.
So if I'm understanding this correct me if I'm wrong, they have conduits in which to channel their magic through, and they can break them if they try to pull like a god level move when they don't have a big enough conduit for it.
Yeah, that's a fair description of what's going on.
Okay, see, but that makes sense. Like, you explained it to me, I, the audience, now understand there's limitations to the magic based off of the conduits that people are carrying around.
Yep.
Makes sense.
And to bring it back to our dragon, what is it?
Prince.
Tales? Stories? What's the name of the series?
The Dragon Prince.
Yeah. That it sounds like they have not done a very good job of actually establishing how the magic works in the universe when it comes to the various elves/races that are accessing that magic.
Yeah, and again, right? I'm not sitting here trying to tell you how to write your stuff, but as somebody who is experiencing what you're putting out, I would like more background info to this, because so far I feel like I am watching somebody else's D&D campaign and they're making all the most horrible decisions, and nobody's explaining to me how this magic system is working. I think that's why... I hate bringing it back to this, but it's the reason why Harry Potter really makes me mad is because when people are like, oh, but it's soft world building, I was like, soft world building still has rules in which you specifically have to abide by as the author, because you are God in this universe, so your word is law, so you actually have to make up the rules even if it's soft world building.
Yes, I agree entirely. It doesn't necessarily mean that the audience has to know exactly how everything works, but you as the author should have a pretty darn good idea of how everything works and to keep things internally consistent.
Right. So far from what I'm watching, right, there's 4 seasons. I have to play catch up all over again because I was watching this hardcore forever ago, but because it's been 3 years, I've fallen off the bandwagon and my memory is not that great, so I have to rewatch it. I will admit this from what I remember. The only thing I can think of note in this is that in this fantasy universe, they do not go hard on the heterosexuality side of it. Like, there are gay couples sprinkled throughout this all the time, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's dope. And that's it, and I'm like, okay, like, again, I don't know your world, I wasn't born in it, I didn't write it. Why is this okay? There has to be a reason behind it. Because so far there's religion in this universe, we've outright said it, but the religion also never makes a front page either. Like, none of this does. I'm like, you need to explain to me why. And if the religion is just so laissez-faire that they don't care, that's great. Then why have a religion at all?
Well, and having not watched it largely see it as a what about these things that are being introduced are necessary for the story that is trying to be told. Certainly within our universe, the religion, at least when it comes to the monotheistic religions of Christianity and Islam, has a pretty negative effect when it comes to same-sex couples being able to happily exist historically. That doesn't necessarily have to be the case with a religion or in any universe, but I think to the point that you're making, if we're introducing these concepts within the world that we have created, why are we introducing them?
Right.
What support of the story that we're telling are they having?
Right. Okay, I know my book is still in the middle of being with the editor right now, so she can take it apart, scrub it clean, and all that. But I'm working on the second book, and while I was working on the second book, I was really, really debating this for a little bit, and I realized something while I was writing it. I was like, I'm actually going to have to introduce a they-them character into this as a vampire. Not because I think people who are non-binary are horrible monsters, but because vampires in and of themselves wouldn't hold standard binary for anything. They've been alive too long. They would move past it really fast. Some of these people are hundreds of years old. They probably just don't care anymore.
Well, and veering a bit into the historical concepts around gender, the way that we understand the gender binary today in the modern Western world is a relatively recent trend. And so with vampires, there's no reason to suspect that a multi-hundred-year-old vampire would hold to our conceptions of the gender binary.
Right.
They may have existed at a time when gender binary, God, these crazy kids with their newfangled ideas.
Right. And realistically, hold on one sec. Okay, hold on. And realistically, right, and this is a personal thing. Realistically, it would make zero sense for vampires to beholden themselves to these ideals unless they were turned a weekend ago. It's gonna take you some time to get over yourself. I got you.
Yeah. Well, and I should also say that I'm not acquainted with how you have created vampires in your universe and how they operate in terms of their thinking and development over time.
Yeah. Really quick, I'm gonna put this on pause because I have to pee really bad.
Hey, no worries.
Okay, I am so sorry. I am back.
Welcome back.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's one thing that's just making me kind of be aggravated about this is look, I'm here for your D&D campaign, but I need background info on so much stuff.
I need a little more information. And one of the examples that I wanted to present in terms of you can get away with explaining very little if the universe supports it is the original Star Wars trilogy, in which the Force is basically explained as this is a mystical field that binds us and the universe together, and Jedi can access it. And that's basically it.
And then everything changed when the midichlorians attacked.
Yes. Yeah.
Ooh, actually, no, that is actually a beautiful segue. Thanks, Brain. Avatar: The Last Airbender also does a really good job of explaining to you the world in which you're in. And it does it in not so many words, just the opening itself tells you a lot without actually bogging you down with too much information. There's 4 nations, based on the 4 elements. Cool. A long time ago, the one nation was a big dick. Understood. And now it's an ongoing war. Okay? And there's one guy who's special that can fix all of this. Okay? And they're looking for him. Understood, let's go. I have the premises that I need. Let's continue.
Yeah, that is very true. And, like, I am embarrassed to say this, that I have not actually watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, but I have seen enough stuff regarding, like, analyzing the stories and analyzing the writing that I have a decent familiarity with the overall series to be able to go, they did this well. Like, they did this really well.
They did. And actually, when some people will sit there and tell me it's like, oh, but The Legend of Korra isn't as good, I'm like, you guys are basing this off of a bias for the same franchise. Korra isn't Avatar because it's not Aang and his story, it's Korra and her story. You guys need to take stories based individually on who's the main character of your story.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do I like Legend of Korra? It's okay. Like, I was just never down for it because I just personally am not a big steampunk fan, which is what it really was leaning heavy into, and I was just like, I don't like steampunk.
Mm-hmm.
The industrial era just bothers me a lot, I'm sorry.
Fair. Well, there's also something to be said for, like, you have Avatar: The Last Airbender, like, as fine a masterpiece of a television show as one could create. Any sequel to it was going to not meet that level. Almost by a default. And so comparing Korra to that is slightly unfair in a, were we really expecting them to get 2 Grand Slams in a row?
Yeah.
That seems unrealistic.
It does sound unrealistic, and in all honesty, when I say I liked Korra, but I wasn't, like, really into it, the reason I liked Korra is because I was like, oh, sweet, we are continuing this trend on of exploring other avatars that came after Aang, because this is a cycle that we were told in the beginning was a continuous, never-ending wash cycle. Cool. Mm-hmm. The only reason why I didn't like Korra is because they really hammered it home on season 1 of that there are people with non-bending, right, that can't bend the elements, that somehow are more in population but have less rights because the benders take up so much stuff and they're angry about it. And I was like, wow, okay, that's a really heavy topic, and I'm really glad that we're going to talk about it, because I always wondered how 2 parents who have no bending suddenly got a kid that can suddenly just burp up fire. Like, what do we do? Like, there's no parenting book for this.
Yeah.
Because they made it a point, like, there are two people who have no bending can get bending kids right out the wazoo. And it's like, that's gotta be really tough. And I was like...
that has to be a big challenge.
But then on top of it, like, what about the parents who are both benders and then just get, you're normal? Yeah. That's gotta be kind of high-key disappointing for them. Like, well, fuck. Mm-hmm. What do we do in this situation?
Yeah, like, and telling a story about those families and that situation, that element of the world building, that would be very interesting.
And we only deal with it for 1 season, then we move on from it, and I'm like, no, wait, come back to season 1 storytelling. We never got a resolution to this. We were having a revolution that was derailed for like 4 minutes, and then we moved on to something else. Come back here and finish this story.
It's like, come on, we need to finish this element of the storytelling.
It is. It's the reason why when I say I like...
resolve it.
Right. It's the reason why I say I like Korra. That's probably the only part that I really liked about it, because they kept trying to shove in too much love triangle stuff. They kept trying to shove in too many new story elements. And when people tell me, well, Korra only got 1 season every single time, and Nickelodeon said they were never going to give them more, and I was like, that's great! But you should finish your fucking story then in 1 season instead of teasing me with the revolution was disbanded and then we moved on to something entirely different when we know for fuck sure we had enough time.
Yeah. Yeah, if it is the case that 1 season was greenlit at a time, that actually should be evidence of whatever your main story in that season was should have been resolved at the end of that story. And therefore, you could reference it in your next story.
Right? Like, season 2 starts where, well, there are still plenty of people who are non-benders that are still very angry, even though what happened in the last season was resolved. And that's probably going to keep popping up again and again. Yes! That kind of generations-long anger doesn't just magically go away because, yep, the revolution was disbanded. We won. It's no longer a thing.
Yeah. This actually reminds me of a thing with Star Trek Voyager. In its initial premise of being a Star Trek ship that is cast out across the entire galaxy and then is at maximum warp like 70 years from home. And so the premise is that it is one Star Trek ship 70 years from home that needs to figure out how to do that with one crew and limited supplies. And they kind of ditch that premise after like 2 seasons. Because they they basically stop telling stories around like limited resources or complete isolation, or the fact that the crew starts off as a mix of Star Trek officers and a rebel group.
That sounds like such a good story, and now you've ruined it when you tell me that they move away from that. It's like, no, wait, come back. This story was so much more interesting.
It's like, wait, you had a really interesting, unique premise here, and then you turned it into another, like, Star Trek exploration series, and also we're on our way home.
You want to know what? Me and Paco are both on Tumblr, and I know for a fact that Paco will kind of know what I'm referencing. There's a tag on Tumblr called Humans Are Space Orcs, and it's where people put the fact that things that are normal to human beings probably would scare aliens who have been spacefaring for so long. Like the fact that, I'm sorry, what do? We glue metal into our mouths, that way we can straighten our teeth. But why? Do you have a better way of doing it? Yes. Yes, we do.
Better than gluing metal on teeth.
Right. That
sounds suspicious.
The entire thing is just explaining how human beings on an alien-run spaceship, human beings would actually be the most dangerous thing on the ship, not because we're bigger, stronger, smarter, more technologically inclined. It's because we have no fucking chill. We don't. Like...
It is one of my favorite concepts of, like, a... like sci-fi of humans as the space orcs. Yeah, that concept just I find very amusing.
Well, because I remember reading one specific Humans Are Space Orcs, and it made me giggle. Well, the ship is completely broken. There's no way we're getting off here. We sent out a stress signal. Somebody will be here to pick us up in like 3 to 4 days. Human Jennifer pops up. 3 to 4 days? It's hot as hell on this planet. Well, we can't go anywhere. Fuck that noise. Go get me the tools and put something over me so I'm shaded. I'll fix this bitch myself. Human Jennifer, you are a medical crew. You can't fix this. The hell I can't. The very next paragraph
Just watch me.
Human Jennifer fixed the spaceship in 17 hours. We don't know how she fixed it, but she fixed it.
Yeah, one of the Tumblr stories that I have seen on Humans Are Space Orcs that I found very fascinating, and I'm gonna give a very abridged version of it, that basically boils down to humans are very new to whatever intergalactic government exists, and some outside threat has attacked and destroyed several worlds, and so the intergalactic union is like, okay, we are rallying all of our member worlds to say who wants to come help, and humans were just like, ooh, pick us, we want to help, we will do it, we can do it. And humans and the aliens basically treat humans as like okay, we'll see how helpful you can be, and are effectively treated with disdain the whole time, as being like the new kids on the block that like don't know any better. And were relegated to like non-major roles. Like it was basically you can collect bounties or like do some raiding or whatever.
Insert Morgan Freeman voice here.
Yeah. And to skip ahead, the end of the story is basically that the war was won far easier than expected. And the enemy that was defeated kept making reference to I don't remember what word they specifically used. We'll say destroyers. As being there are these destroyers that are really wrecking our day. And the main alien Galactic Union never realized who was being referenced, and so basically every alien species was raising their hand on that's us. Yep, that was totally us. And it's after the war and going over the defeated enemy's data that they realized that, the destroyers were the humans. Because the humans gave no shit, and that they would just go in guns blazing before major offensives were being launched, and just mess up the enemy from behind the lines.
Literally, it's like, these kids play too much Fortnite. They don't know how to wait for the word go. We don't got time for the word go. We are on a limited lifespan, dude.
We don't got time for this. And you told us do some raiding, so we did some raiding at their major military installations.
So we did. You guys literally wiped out an entire base. You left one person alive. You only need one person to spread the word. You don't need a whole base. That wasn't the point.
Yeah, and one of the earlier premises in the video was in the Tumblr story was basically that human ships would be coming into base like completely wrecked all the time.
We were just considered bad drivers.
What?
Like, we were bad drivers. No, we weren't. We won a war.
Yeah, it was like the alien Union government was basically treating it as these humans, they can't even manage to keep their spaceships held together. And it's only after the war that it's realized, the reason they can't keep their spaceships together is because they're freaking insane and taking on enemy installations that they have no right being near, much less combating.
Right. And to circle this back to the Dragon Prince, all of this that is being told on Tumblr is very much soft world building, because the aliens are never really referenced past some alien-esque, form on them or, colors, but you know human beings because you are one. You don't need background info for this. So when it's human Jennifer decided, fuck it, I'll fix the ship, I want to get off of this hot planet, you've met people like this before. They have absolutely zero on the skill tree of mechanical engineering. In one YouTube video in an afternoon, they've become an expert because it's bothering them.
At the very least, enough to have hot rigged something together that will function long enough to get us from point A to point B.
Right. Which is why Humans Are Space Orcs on Tumblr is basically a long collection of everybody's human OC or OCs just fucking around in the universe being human beings. Because realistically, yeah, we would be absolute terrorists, and not because we're trying to be, but because we just have zero chill.
It's like the idea of humans as being the chaos gremlins of the universe.
Oh, can you imagine though?
There's
it's just
something very resonant there.
No, can you imagine though? It's like you're making us a little upset, counselor. What are you gonna do? We're gonna send in Human Bob. Who is Human Bob? We don't talk about Human Bob, but we will send him in if you're not gonna play play this peace treaty with us. No human has scared me. Fast forward 2 hours. Okay, so he signed the treaty, and he also asked that please do not send any humans to this planet. He had enough of a horrible time listening to me explain to him the difference between K-pop and J-pop bands, which there's just so much to go over. We know Human Bob. We get to listen to this all the time.
We know Human Bob.
It's like,
you don't have to explain it to us. We're well aware.
Right?
Well, and one of the contrasts with this humans are orcs is that in a lot of science fiction, humans are often portrayed as being like, oh, the thing about humans is that like they're just so smart. They developed space travel so quickly relative to other peeps, and that's what other aliens are worried about when it comes to humans, is that they just
did it.
Do like it's not so much the chaos part so much as the humans are just really intelligent, I guess. And so this humans are space orcs kind of turns that on its head it's not that humans are like super brilliant genius relative to other alien species. It's just that we don't give a darn.
Realistically, how did we get to the moon? We strapped a guy to a bottle rocket with like a gas tank and like a fish tank for a helmet and a parachute and told him, okay, don't die on the way down, and hoped that worked.
Like, it's Nixon had a speech for if they couldn't get home. Like, when we sent the astronauts to the moon, we were ready for the fact, like, we are not sure if we can get you back again.
Realistically, if aliens ever heard how we got there, they would be, what do you mean you didn't have the computers for this? We didn't have the computers for this. We didn't even have the right calculations for this. We just had a hope and a prayer that we were aiming at the right spot. What?
It's like we did this by hand, baby.
Like, do you understand how much calculation and errors are in these equations? Yes. And you did it anyway? We ain't got time to double check the math. We were gonna lose the race. Who were you racing? Each other.
Other humans.
No. It's very important.
That really is the thing. Is like we did actually double and triple check that math, but we did it all by hand.
There is still room for error.
There is room for error, but the fact that we actually managed to get the people to the moon and then back home again indicates it wasn't enough of an error to be a problem.
Realistically, that's what we always tell each other. It wasn't that big of an error. I think I did okay. Something in the background explodes. It's only one building.
I think it's fine.
Right.
As opposed to the poor Mars probe that crashed into the surface like 20 years ago because one team was using metric and the other team was using imperial measurements.
Oh, see, but again...
Whoopsie doodles.
But again, right, in Dragon Prince, because there's humans in this, I get it.
Yeah.
Humans are the antithesis to the natural magical beings, which is why our magic is quote-unquote dark, because we're stealing life. Awesome. I feel like maybe we shouldn't have gone down that route. I feel like maybe there should have just been other people who were naturally inclined to magic who were just abusing it, and humans are just here is because... What do you mean they're naturally immune to magic? Nothing bothers them. Like, the sun doesn't bother them, the moon doesn't bother them, some of them float in water, some of them sink. We don't know what that's about. They grow stuff out of the ground because they just put it in, and we're like, okay, in 7 months this will be a thing we can eat, and they're content to wait.
Someday, this will be food.
But they don't do that. Like, if they had made it to where humans are just very, like, magic doesn't do anything to us, which is why we can't do it. Like, we are anti-magic because we have no way of being affected by magic. We live in all four elements all the time, and we just deal with it.
Yeah.
But no, they're like, nope, there's 4 different elves, and also there's star elves, one of them supposedly gave human beings magic, and there's dragons, and... Okay.
And 4 episodes in, you don't have enough of the story building to go off of to understand exactly how the world works.
I really don't. All I understand is humans were dicks a long time ago. We are separated by a very large mountainscape that is guarded by a old as fuck dragon, supposedly, and sun elves, which can get lava to the face and they don't burn or die, and I'm like...
Well, to be fair, humans being dicks a long time ago does sound like us.
Right, but you know what I mean? It's like... Okay. Why? Because we were just trying to get more space in the magical land and people told us no? Like, that's never stopped human beings from before ever. We would have just started planting houses and been like, well, nobody was here. You're not supposed to be here. Well, nobody was here, so we just set up shop. What? Yeah. Look, got a whole village.
Look, it's nice.
Yous have been here for 3 weeks, and we have 4 houses and a well.
And we have multiple houses and fences.
And it's like, how are we supposed to get them out? We might have to go to war. They built a settlement in a week. I don't think we're gonna get them out. I think they're just gonna move if we make them, and then they're gonna go buy somebody else's problem.
Well, then they can be someone else's problem. Problem solved.
2 months later, hi, we're back. Why are yous back? Yeah, the other people you sent us to told us, quote, to tell you, stop giving us the humans, that's not our problem. So you're stuck with us.
So we decided to come back here.
Why not just go further north? It's cold.
It's cold up there.
Realistically,
this place is much more comfortable.
Right, realistically, they could have done a lot with the world building. But again, it's not my story, so I can't nitpick too hard on this.
Sure.
But I can nitpick for right now where it's like, oh, this seems like such an interesting world. And we don't do anything with it.
At the very least, by episode 4, there isn't enough draw to understand what's going on.
The only thing so far I've learned is that everybody that keeps telling one of the main characters, Callum, that you don't have magic, humans can't do it naturally. It's the only part I'm interested in, because I'm like, it's like a middle grade fantasy. He's gonna learn magic at some point, but we're 4 episodes into a 12 episode season. We're gonna have to speed it up.
Sure.
Which isn't to say it's bad, it's just, let's go. I need more background info, or this kid needs to actually get lucky and learn magic.
We either need more background info, or we need to pick up the pace.
Realistically, because they're playing this will they won't they with the elf girl and Callum, the older of the 2 prince brothers, the human prince brothers, and I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Speed up the process. Which, again, like, okay, if this is like a middle grade book, we're on course for this will they won't they plot. However, as an adult, just kiss her, dude. Let's go. Speed up this process.
Well, maybe that is part of it, is that like, we as adults aren't the intended audience.
Oh no, I know that for a fact, but at the same time, it's like, this is how we get, like, the Potterheads, and we have the whole debacle of the kids that were waiting when they were, like, 12 for a Hogwarts letter that was never gonna come. We might need to actually set up a precedent for why this fantasy must remain in the world of fantasy.
We shouldn't be reinforcing this.
Well, realistically, do I believe a long, long time ago that there were dragons in Middle-earth or something? Yeah. I'm also going to tell you right now, as somebody who doesn't do archaeology or history, I would bet my bottom dollar that it was probably just one last vestige of dinosaurs just flying around that people confused for a dragon. I might be wrong, but that sounds way more interesting than... Why do all dragons in history want to hoard gold? What do you gain from hoarding gold?
Well, there is legit... Allow me to grab my history hat. Throw that on for a moment. Like, there are legitimate hypotheses out there that the narratives of, like, dragons or giants are, like, really large mythical creatures are based off of fossils that are found. like that were found in the past. Because you dig, like, you don't even have to dig around. If the right hillside, like, starts washing away from the rain and you see gigantic bones there, you're going to wonder, well, what the heck was that thing?
Do you think it's
it
a
has
bird?
a lot of ribs and is very big.
Do you think it's a bird? It has human teeth. What? Maybe it was a giant. There we go. That sounds more on par.
It has, yeah. So they're, like, I personally think that there is a very strong premise for that idea of, well, a lot of our mythology around gigantic creatures, especially gigantic, like, reptilian creatures, comes down to, we found things in the ground and didn't know what they were and had a, well, this is our best guess based on the available information, and, like, we see much smaller things that are similarly reptilian, like crocodiles.
A long time ago, there was this dinosaur called the Tyrannosaurus Rex. It was huge. Oh, cool. What did it evolve into? The thing that you eat when you get a 10-piece at McDonald's.
Chicken?
Your ancestors were once a Tyrannosaurus Rex and a wolf. What are you now? A lapdog and a chicken.
Well done, evolution. You did it.
Well, realistically, right, from an evolutionary standpoint, it would make more sense for things to go from incredibly large to incredibly small, because incredibly small things need less of a caloric intake, meaning you're gonna live longer because it's gonna take you longer to get through all of your food sources.
Well, it's a really complicated thing. It's basically a evolution will steer creatures towards whatever thing helps them survive the best right now with the tools they got.
Yeah.
And if that means being really big right now, then that's the strategy that we're going for. But if anything happens to the food supply, boy, does that strategy backfire big time.
Right? We can't keep feeding him. He's too damn big.
Too big. Got too big.
I don't know what you're feeding him, but he's too damn big.
Like, that is, in actual, steering us well off the topic. That is where things like raccoons tend to be very adaptable. They can eat just about anything. Their paws act like little hands. They're reasonably intelligent. So
they're the trash man.
Pretty much any environment that they're placed in, they're gonna be okay. Are they gonna be the top dog of their environments? No, but that's not their strategy.
Their strategy is survival, friend. They're gonna survive.
The strategy is just, I am very adaptable to my circumstances.
Yeah.
And I hope that I don't run into, like, a cougar.
Right? We'll have problems. I run into anything bigger than me. Like what? Like that crazy lady that keeps giving me marshmallows because I keep going onto her porch to get her trash.
I don't know why she throws the marshmallows at me, but I will take them.
Right, but you see what I mean? It's like, Dragon Prince doesn't do this where there's anything that, like, survived in the land of magic. Like, I understand pushing out human armies and, like, the human dark mages. That I understand. But the common man who's, like, a baker or, like, the guy that fixes shoes, who have absolutely no reason to be pushed out, why would they be pushed out? Like, explain.
Yeah. Was this just a, well, you are of the same race of people that was causing problems, so out you go?
It looks like it, because they don't tell you how long it's been since the humans were kicked out of the land of magic. So I'm like,
interesting.
We kind of need a background for how long this was. Like, Avatar did it really good, because when it told you it's been about 100 years, awesome.
Yeah.
In 100 years, you could have at least 2, maybe 3 generations born before the history gets muddy, and then the 4th generation, which is what you would be viewing the lens through, would definitely have zero basis as to actually why the war was started. So, yes, that makes sense.
Yeah, there is a common saying in history that it takes 100 years to understand what happened. And it is exactly for the reason that you're talking about there, is that it takes about that much time for the generations to, frankly, die before you end up with a group of people that doesn't have immediate memories of the event, and can look at it without having experienced it, or being a direct descendant of a person that experienced it.
Right.
And so in that regards, as you say, Avatar: The Last Bender does a very good job of, in that opening sequence, going, this is how long ago this took place. We are now in a world where there are very few people that remember this time.
And the ones that do remember it kind of don't even really remember the beginning consequences of it. They just were there for the immediate aftermath that got the war kicked off, right? Like,
yeah.
I'm 29, Paco is not that much older than me, but for those
37.
37. For those of you youngins in the audience, if you're listening, 9/11 happened, and I remember 9/11 as this. I remember seeing it on the television and assuming it was just a really, really grainy movie. I didn't understand what was happening, but I was there. Paco, being older, did understand.
I was in high school at the time. I remember the announcement over the loudspeaker in class.
Right. So even though both of us are within the same generational era, it's two entirely different perspectives for the same event that happened. I was there. I have very little memory of it. I only was there for the immediate aftermath of it. Like, I remember that very well. Paco was there for the same event, was there for the event, understood the implications of the event, why this was bad, and also lived through the immediate aftermath.
Yep. Yeah. As you say, Hello, we are technically of the same generation, but we are still far enough apart in age for when that event happened for us to have two very different experiences of that event.
Right, so just like in Avatar: The Last Airbender, even if the event that kicked off the war happened, the older people in the audience for when that happened would know what this meant. The people who were just a smidgen younger would be like, okay, I guess so, but have no immediate memory as to why was it bad until they got older.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, in this Dragon Prince though, if you told me how long it's been, you didn't do a good job of it, because you never make mention of it enough times that I realize that it's been a while since this has happened.
Yeah, from the context that you're saying, it doesn't sound like they provide that context strongly enough for you as a person in the audience to know how long it's been since humans were separated from the magic world.
Right. Like in Avatar, they did it every single opening. The opening is the, in case you missed it, backbone to all of this.
That is so good of them to do that.
Right, because even if somebody came in like season 2, episode 7, the opening, here's what's going on, here's what happened last episode, sit down and shut up.
Yeah. Well, and that bare bones recap is a, yep, we have encapsulated all the information that you really need to understand what is going on.
Right.
In this universe.
Long ago, the 4 nations lived together in harmony. Cool. There's 4 nations, they used to get along. Then everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. Ah, okay, these guys were dicks. 100 years ago, the Avatar disappeared. He's the only one that could master all 4 elements. Oh no, that sounds really bad. I hope he's okay.
I hope he's fine. But also, so there's only one person that can master all 4 elements. Alright, that sounds relevant.
Right. And then my brother and I found Avatar. Oh, okay, this sounds like it's gonna be a ballin'. He's been gone for 100 years, unless it's a brand new kid that also grew up with this. No, it's the same guy from 100 years ago. Oh, he's super behind on the times. Gotta play catch up.
We have a lot of catching up to do.
But do you know what I mean? It's like, the opening is very very concise of, here's the who, the what, the when, the where, and the why. All in about a minute and 10 seconds, and they break it down real fast.
Yep.
And I appreciate them for that, because it's a very clean setup for the world, so that way, okay, there's elements that can be manipulated and stuff in this world. There's 4 nations that obviously correspond to the 4 stuff. Only one guy gets to be the party planner for all of this and have all the decorations. Awesome. We get it. And he was gone for 100 years and was stuck in an ice cube.
Yep.
Proceed with your story. I am all caught up.
I understand the premise of what we are doing.
But,
let's go.
But in the Dragon Prince, they don't do that. Like, they give you a really, really quick rundown of it, and literally the opening is, long ago, the land of Zadia was in peace. And I was like, cool, cool, cool. The land of Zadia was in peace. Then the humans got dark magic. Okay, cool. That sounds bad. They were exiled from the land of Zadia, as you should do.
Dark magic, I have associations of that being bad, so that's probably a bad thing.
Right? And then it's like, and now they killed the Dragon Prince. And I'm like, hold up, wait a minute. We skipped so far ahead in the storytelling. Why the fuck should I care that we killed the Dragon Prince? What do dragons represent in this world?
It's the I don't quite have enough context to understand why it is bad that the Dragon Prince has been killed, beyond, like, killing people is generally bad?
Right, and that just... It's a good show. That's what I'm really trying to get to, like, the heart of it. It's a good show. It's just, from a writer's perspective, how many writers did you have on here that actually gave a shit about the backstory? Because I feel like you only got the people that knew how to write action scenes and forgot to grab somebody that knows how to break down what the fuck is going on.
Mm-hmm. Well, and if its intended audience is children, frankly, that is to a large degree par for the course.
Yeah. It's... Okay. This is coming from...
Doesn't mean that we can't be disappointed.
Right. I can still be disappointed. Like, you guys should let kids experience good literary analysis, because good literary analysis helps you with being able to watch something and being able to give it a good critique from an analytical standpoint.
Yep. And also, Avatar: The Last Airbender, that was also aimed at children. And look at how well it did.
It did. You want to know what actually Avatar: The Last Airbender does really, really well? They make it a point that Uncle Iroh in that is... He's lived long enough and he's gone through all of his character growth that he is now settled into his final form, and he's a well-rounded, well-adjusted person. And then the Tales of Ba Sing Se comes out of nowhere and sucker punches you, because you can still be a well-rounded person and still have a lot of baggage that you don't get to go through.
Yeah.
God, that episode was so sad. Like, bro, don't do this to me.
This hits right in the feels.
Because they never, right? When you get older, you realize Uncle Iroh was a general in a military that was actively trying to conquer a city. That's how his son got killed. Meaning, Uncle Iroh, before we meet him in the series proper, probably did in fact commit a lot of war crimes. Like, a lot. He was called the Dragon of the West. Like, that's a title. That's a fancy title. But you only get to see him where
You don't get that title from not being good at war.
Right.
When you're a general.
You only meet Iroh when he's finally calmed down into being, well, the little old man who's trying to get his nephew to chill the fuck out.
Yeah.
Which, it's not a bad thing, right? It is not a bad thing to write characters that have a really bloody past, who have settled into this era of, what good does me fighting you do? It does nothing.
Well, and it's good to have those complex characters of, here is a person that did some really terrible stuff in the past, but that is not the kind of person that they are now.
Right. That is good character growth.
Having those kinds of characters, I actually think is really, really good, especially for children, in presenting that idea to them that, hey, you can have something in your past that was bad, but that doesn't define who you are in the present.
Right. It's the reason why he was so hard on Zuko for such a long time in the series. It wasn't because he was trying to change his nephew to be like him. He was trying to help him skip the, oh my god, you have so much character development to go through phase. Which you can't skip that, unfortunately.
It's like, I am trying to help you skip some of the steps.
And it's the reason why...
Some of those painful ones.
Right, and the reason why when Zuko finally apologizes to him when he's crying to him at the prison cell, and he tells him, I was never mad at you, I was mad that you were going to make mistakes. I was like, this right here, thank you for putting this into a show, because you were indicating to the people, it's like, you're allowed to make mistakes, and the people you love are allowed to be upset at you, not because they're mad at you, they're mad at the you that's making the mistakes. And they're hoping you get over it and become the better you.
Yep. Well said.
Which is why Dragon Prince bothers me so much, because so far, there doesn't seem to be any character growth, not even the beginning trickles of it, and I'm like, we're 4 episodes in, guys. We do need to start turning the wheel at some point.
Well, you said it has, what, 12 episodes in the first season?
Yeah.
Well, hopefully some progress will be made in the next 8.
Oh, let's hope so. According to my editor, right, thank you, Celestial, he basically told me, he goes, you do actually get to meet, like, a really cool character in Season 1, but it's, like, towards the final episodes, and I was like, oh no, don't make me meet the cool character right before the series is about to fucking end. Now I only want to know what's going on with the cool character. He goes, yeah, no. He's like, it's more prevalent in Season 2. I was like, no. That is not how you do things. If there is an important, interesting character that has to be established, they need to be established a little bit sooner than episode 8 or 9 out of 12. Like, guys.
Mm-hmm. Like, maybe you can get away with 8 or 9 in a 24 episode season.
Yeah, if it's
less so in a 12.
Right. 12 is basically, you gotta wrap your shit up. And if we're bringing in the Hail Mary pass at episode 8, it's too late. Most people have mentally clacked out.
Yeah. Or by introducing a fascinating new character, it's we don't have enough time to really understand who this person is.
The only thing that Celestial told me was that the guy I meet in Season 1 has an amazingly, like, unrealistically deep voice to where you're like, why the fuck do you sound like that if you're an elf? And I was like, that's it? That's all you're going to tell me? He goes, that's all I can tell you, because if I tell you anything more, you're going to be upset. And I was like, now I am upset, because now I have so many follow-up questions, like, sir, why is your voice so deep if you're an elf?
It's like, I'm upset anyway, because now I have questions.
Yeah, now I have more questions, damn it! Now that it matters, I have questions throughout this whole series, and I'm like, I am so tempted to just record me watching these, pausing it on Netflix, just to explain why this shit is bothering me from a writing perspective, but I feel like YouTube will ding me hard if I do that.
Yeah, that seems possible.
You're just scared, YouTube, that I have something important to say.
At the very least, it's gonna go, you can't monetize this content.
Yeah, I don't get paid now!
Yep, that doesn't change the fact that I have one video on my channel that YouTube was like, hey, you can't monetize this. And I just have it, what do you mean I can't monetize this? I don't have enough subscribers to monetize anything.
Joke's on you, YouTube. You don't pay me anyway. But no, it's just...
I guess in the case of the video that I made, they were like, it was kind enough to go, hey, by the way, any ad revenue from this video is going to go to the people whose song that you're using. Is that okay? And so all I had to do was go, oh yeah, that's totally fine. They can monetize my video. Like 50 people are going to watch it. It'll be fine.
I hope you enjoy your 2 cents of money.
Yep. But that is another tale altogether.
It is. You want to know what, actually, while I've been watching this, I have been mentally rewriting it. And I'm like, I shouldn't be doing this to somebody else's stuff. Like, that's what fan fiction is for. But I do want to rewrite it, because it has a lot of good elements in it. It's just executed poorly.
Well, and I did that with Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Like, when that movie came out, it bothered me so much that I can write this better while basically maintaining all of the same themes and story beats.
Right, and you want to know what? When people are like, oh, but you shouldn't rewrite stuff, they worked really hard on it. Yes, authors do work really hard on their stuff. However, you are allowed to, as somebody who is consuming their media, you are allowed to nitpick it because you are the direct audience member for it, so you are allowed to make comments, critiques, and, like, criticisms of it, because you're directly in front of it.
Yep. Well, and it's also no, don't harass the people that made the media, but you're definitely allowed to, in the public sphere, go, hey, this wasn't executed poorly, or this was bad.
Right.
That is a thing that is in fact okay to do, and that we probably should be doing it to some degree in order to get better media.
Right, like, I know you haven't seen it, but The Owl House, even rewatching all the older episodes and everything, because I have to still wait on Disney and Dana Terrace, who didn't deserve getting her show canceled. It was really good. Even rewatching it, I'm like, there are things in here that I could absolutely nitpick the hell out of, but that's nitpicking. That's really, like, little things that are maybe only bothering me. Other than that, it's more or less pretty well put together. Other than, like, a little bit of a pacing issue, but also it's a kid's show and it's only on for, like, 30 minutes, so we kind of have to hurry up. Yeah. It's not bad. Mm-hmm. Whereas Dragon Prince, we are speedrunning certain spots that should be slow-mode, and we are slow-moing stuff that needs to be speedrun.
Mm-hmm. I hear you there. As a person that is not currently watching it.
I don't even know if you would really like it, is because the guy who played Sokka in Avatar: The Last Airbender plays Prince Callum in this.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and it's also made by the same guys who did Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is why every season is called books. And I'm like, it made more sense when it was Avatar, because there's only 4 elements and we're gonna get 4 seasons, so.
Yep. Okay. I was not aware of that connection.
Yeah, which they have little, like, throwaway Avatar stuff in there, and it makes me giggle all the time, because I'm like, an Avatar: The Last Airbender reference. But also, it's not the show I came to see.
But also, what about this story?
Right, what about this story? I think the reason why Avatar: The Last Airbender also worked where Dragon Prince is not is because bending the elements in that required a lot of physical body movement, because you had to get the elements to move with you, so you had to basically know how to fight and bend at the same time. Whereas this magic system, if there is one, I guess so, this magic system doesn't seem to have a way that mages do it. They just can, and I'm like, but why? Like, most mages, if you write your magic stuff, usually there has to be you're not naturally in tune to this, especially if you're a human being. Like, the elves that are literally born with it, I get why it's intuitive to them. Human beings should have to have a thingy that they have to do in order to do the magic, because it doesn't come naturally to them.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and even for a universe that has been created where beings can naturally do magic. Can naturally do magic. When telling that story through a visual medium like a TV show, it can be very nice for us to have visual cues of the magic is, like, people are doing the magic thing now. Like, that isn't necessarily a, hey, to tell a good story, you need to have this existing. It's more of a, when telling a story in this medium, by taking advantage of this element of the medium, it helps tell the story. I think that was one of the things with Avatar: The Last Airbender that is done so well with the bending that requires movement, is we're telling a story using a visual medium. The magic works by doing very visual things on screen.
Yeah, so far when the few human mages I've seen do magic, they just write stuff in the air and they speak backwards, and I'm like, okay.
That is a thing. That is a way to do it, I guess.
I know, but you know what I mean? It's like, we, the audience, get to see the fancy little, like, neon letters that they're writing. But
yeah.
Obviously the characters in the universe don't have that luxury, so they're just watching people scribble nonsense in the air. Mm-hmm. Just like in Avatar: The Last Airbender, we see Aang's airbending because it's very light blue on the screen, indicating air. In universe, air doesn't have a fucking color, so they're just watching this kid do stuff, and it's coming out of nowhere for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I'm thinking about that as well with, like in Lord of the Rings, that Gandalf does a lot of his magic with a staff. Like, the staff is very often the visual cue for us of Gandalf is doing a magic thing.
Yeah. But they don't... They have staffs, but it's more like walking sticks so far from what I've seen. And again, it's been about 4 years since I've watched this, so I might need a bit of a refresher. But so far, I am not impressed with what's being presented to me. Like, okay. Mm-hmm. Okay.
But as you said in the very beginning, good, but meh.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, if I was to put this on in the background and just let it play, it would probably keep my brain active for my entire 8-hour shift for work. But as somebody who has to sit here and watch it, ooh, I have notes. I have questions. I have critiques.
Yeah. And one of the things that I was considering in that opening statement of good but meh versus bad media, like, there's something to be said of the entertainment value of a media or story versus how good it is at actually telling a story.
Yeah.
Because there are plenty of things that can be entertaining, while storytelling-wise, it is, you have not done a good job.
Right. Like, what was it called? Like Regular Show. Everybody I knew loved Regular Show. I found very little entertainment value in it, and what stories it was telling to me episodically throughout the entire runtime, I just wasn't finding engaging. But again, that's a matter of taste. I don't particularly like these kinds of shows where it's just focused on two stoners who don't really want to get their fucking shit together and do anything with their life. I don't like those kinds of shows, even when they're in my age group. It bothers me.
Yeah. Well, and like, I'm also thinking, like, when it comes to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, virtually all of those movies are on some level entertaining, but they are widely hit or miss when it comes to the actual story that they're telling, like, in terms of how well it's executed.
Right. The Incredible Hulk circa 2003, hard miss. Iron Man circa 2009 with Robert Downey Jr. That hit really hard, and that's actually what launched the MCU into its current, I don't even know, monstrosity phase. There's just so much MCU.
Monstrosity is probably a good way of describing it.
There's so much stuff in it. I'm like, I feel like the time traveler's wife. Every time I finish one show, there's 3 more shows. And I'm like,
there's 3 more of them.
I can't keep doing this, man. So far, all I've seen of the MCU is I've seen Loki, I've seen WandaVision, I've seen Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I just got done watching Moon Knight for the 3rd time, and I'm going to be completely honest, I'm not going back for a 4th because this story is not hitting me. I am somehow dodging it expertly all the time. I can't get it.
How did you get to 3 watches of that before deciding that was enough?
So the first time I watched it, I had it on in the background while I was doing work, and I didn't realize I had finished all of it in my 1 8-hour shift because I just was having it just go.
Yep.
And I was like, oh no.
Fair.
So I was like, okay, I missed it. I'm going to have to go back and rewatch it. I watched it and realized I'm not paying attention to this because I have no idea who Moon Knight is. I don't know why I should be caring. So I went on a rabbit hole deep dive on my phone while it was playing and completely missed it again. So on the third rewatch, I was like, okay, I have everything I need now. I should be able to focus.
Yep.
And it still wasn't hitting me. And I was like,
still not clicking. Still not
yeah,
there.
and I'm like, again, very, very interesting story to have a superhero who has dissociative identity disorder. But also, I have so many follow-up questions. Is the superhero power given because of the disorder, or did he always have it and the disorder is helping him with being able to be a superhero and some guy that works at a museum?
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't tell you because as much as I've been trying to watch it, I just can't. I'm sorry. I won't go for watch number 4. I couldn't get into it. Why did you get into Loki?
That's totally fair.
But Hella, why did you get into Loki? I really like the idea of time is it's presented in a sci-fi element because everybody has their hot take on it. But this is the first time I've actually seen somebody sit there and explain the funnel theory to people who don't know what that is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've not actually watched any of the MCU shows.
Oh.
But Loki is definitely the one that I most have I need to get around to watching this.
Well, I guess I should explain that. For those of you who don't know, the funnel theory is this. The funnel theory basically says that, well, why are we the only things in the universe? You don't know that you're the only thing in the universe. You only know that you're the only thing in your universe. But if there is a funnel that indicates at the top is just life in general, and the further down you get depends on how much intelligent life there is, the bottom of the funnel for this theory is intelligent life that can space travel outside of its own galaxy. So right now, we're about 2 steps up. We can kind of travel in our own galaxy, but not too far. That's where we're at. Mm-hmm. So, indicating that the funnel theory exists in this show, but also the fact that the multiverse theory is also relevant in this show, indicates that there are universes where you are not the top of the food chain. You are very much at the bottom, and you don't know that. And it's like, what a great show.
Thank you for that explanation.
Yeah,
funnel theory.
Yeah, it's not called that, but I've always just called it the funnel theory. It's actually called the great citation theory, where basically it's just every little bit of it starts getting excited off. Like, life has to exist in a universe. Okay, that's step 1. Step 2, it has to be, life that can evolve. Okay, evolving life. Step 3, it has to be intelligent evolving life. Okay, step 4, it has to be intelligent life that can advance itself. Cool. It keeps adding more steps the further you go down. Mm-hmm. Which, there's actually a video on the channel, but you've probably already seen by the time this tea time goes up, where we discuss Loki, and I actually explain this a whole hell of a lot better. But that's the only reason I was really into it, was because I was like, oh, my jam! I love when we talk about space stuff like this.
I love talking about this, and I love about talking about this in this way.
Yeah, and the fact that it was just like, oh, and Wilson, you're in this? I'm sold. I need no other... The guy that actually played Loki, I don't give a fuck. I'm here for Owen Wilson and the time theory. I came here for very specific reasons. Sir, you're lovely, but I'm not here for you.
Like, sorry, Hiddleston. Step aside. Owen Wilson's here.
Wow. He didn't give us one wow in that series, and I was so mad about it. I was like, oh. The one thing
that's disappointing.
The one thing
Marvel, why wouldn't you let him say the thing?
Right? You didn't let him say the thing. I'm hoping that this season 2 that supposedly is coming out, we get a wow.
Yeah.
Even an oh wow I will take. I will substitute just wow for oh wow.
we will accept this as a negotiated point.
But yeah, just basically, like, all we've been talking about is shows that have done good media that's been interesting to talk about, and good media that is just very mediocre. Like, it's not bad, but it's nothing to write home about.
Yep.
Which I think some of the MCU can be categorized into that, where it's nothing to write home about, but I watched it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I've watched all of the MCU movies. Like, I have watched every single MCU movie. And I have enjoyed most of them, but there are plenty of those that, even though I enjoyed them, I wouldn't characterize them as being, like, good storytelling.
Yeah? Oh, I'm gonna get so much hate for this. Okay. There are main plot Marvel movies, like Iron Man setting up Iron Man, Captain America setting up Captain America, Thor setting up Thor. These are main staple movies that set up main characters that are going to become reoccurring things in the MCU that you have to know about. Counterpoint to this, there are also filler movies. Filler movies are just setting up scenes for future movies because they will soon be taking place in this specific location. And I hate to say this, Black Panther was both. Black Panther was both.
What specific thing are you saying that Black Panther was setting up?
Because the Wakanda is used as a major fight scene in one of the movies. I'm trying to remember.
Oh, for Infinity War.
Right.
Yep.
One of the major fight scenes happens in Wakanda, and we are there for quite a bit of time.
Yep.
But specifically, if you watch the Black Panther movie, we don't really get to see Wakanda in general. We get to just hang around with Black Panther, his sister, the guy from Sherlock Holmes on BBC, who also played Bilbo Baggins, whose name I am forgetting hard right now. Martin something.
Martin Freeman.
Martin Freeman.
Yep.
And also, the main villain guy is not even in Wakanda until, like, the third half of the movie. Like,
yep.
We are put in Wakanda so that way we could say Wakanda forever, but we are not actually there enough to give a shit about the country itself. But Ella, that's not what the point of the Black Panther movie was. It should have been, considering that's what the main villain's goal was to take over Wakanda. For taking over a country that we never get to see, it's a little anticlimactic.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the film does enough covering of Wakanda to give us okay, this is what this country is. But I can certainly back the idea that they could have done more world building when it comes to Wakanda, so that we had more to do, that we had more of an attachment to the place and not just like the handful of people that we know that live there.
Yeah, and for the record, I am a half white, half Hispanic woman, so I can't speak on subjects of, the black population. I can only speak so far as my personal experience has gone, which is none. So, That's my 2 cents on it. I feel like it was both a filler and an establishing movie, and it bothered me because I was like, why don't we explore this world more? Because I feel like we were only there long enough to do some stuff, and then we fucked right back off to not Wakanda.
Well, and really for me with the Black Panther movie, in terms of the perspective of it being a filler movie, I do agree that to some extent that film was we are establishing this place so that it can be the final battle site for Infinity War. And in that respect, it is disappointing in a making let me pull back for a moment. It is disappointing for Infinity War to have Wakanda brought in, like, to that story as we're gonna have the final fight here, with Wakanda and a bunch of superheroes versus Thanos' army. To which I kind of have I'm sorry, why is this Wakanda's fight all of a sudden, and only Wakanda's?
Yeah, it is definitely one of those, look, I understand why a lot of people really, really liked this movie, but also from somebody from a literary standpoint, we don't spend enough time here for me to actually care about why Killmonger is trying to take over Wakanda. Actually, listening to his story, I'm more on his side than yours, because I don't spend enough time with you to actually care what you're saying.
Well, that is a very common thread that I've heard with that film. That, like, Killmonger's point, so to speak, like, it very much resonates. One of the things that I don't think gets talked about enough is that oh god, why can't I remember her name? I'm going to get it wrong. It starts with an N. I think Nakia?
The lady that's the bodyguard for Black Panther?
No, the lady that Black Panther is attracted to.
Oh!
Nakia, I was right.
Yeah, I was like...
Nakia, T'Challa's lover. There we go. Yep.
Thanks, Google.
That she says basically the same thing in terms of Wakanda being isolationist is bad. Wakanda should be sharing with the world to make other places better, which is like a similar sentiment to Killmonger, but like the quote-unquote better version of it, where Killmonger has, hey, we in Wakanda should conquer the world because the world is screwed up and I think I can rule it better. Nakia is saying that rather than conquering the world, Wakanda should be reaching out a hand of friendship and lifting people up.
Which makes more sense, because, like, you get more allies if you're not a dick to everybody.
Yeah. But Killmonger's analysis and Nakia's analysis of, man, the rest of the world sucks and something should be done about that, like, that is not incorrect. It's just that Killmonger's solution is, I would argue, a wee bit worse than Nakia's solution.
No, it is, but do you know what I mean? It's like, look, we don't spend enough time with Wakanda's side of the court, so we can only really get Killmonger, who seems to have all of his ducks in a row as far as a plan goes, so you're like, I like what you're saying, Magic Man, but also maybe not as extreme as you're talking about. Maybe pull back a little bit.
Yeah. And in that regards, I think that that dichotomy isn't set up well enough in terms of earlier in the film, better illustrating Nakia's vision versus the, like, Wakanda's traditional isolationism, and that ultimately means that Killmonger's vision gets way more screen time, and means that after we watch that film, we end up going, Killmonger was right, while forgetting that Nakia earlier in the film had the same criticisms, but with a, dare I say, healthier response to that situation.
Right. And to circle this all the way back to Dragon Prince,
yes,
they also have this isolationist thing where the human kingdoms outside of the land of magic that is Zadia don't even really talk to each other. They only ever really come together to bitch about problems and then completely fuck off from each other. Like, they don't give each other help. Ever at all, it seems. And I'm like, why? Why are you just not helping each other? You're all people. At this point, the Magic Land is right there and hates you. You're the only friends you've got. Maybe stop making enemies with each other.
But we're so good at making enemies of each other.
I know, but do you see what I mean, though? It's like, you need to
Yeah.
explain why the human beings don't like each other enough that they are outright isolating their kingdoms from each other, to the point where there's not even, it appears, active trade with each other. Yous only come together when the end of the world is happening. Again? Must be Tuesday.
Sure.
But
Oh yeah, I follow that entirely. Yeah.
again, this is just somebody who is in the middle of waiting for their book to be done being read by the editor to get it back so I can finally get around to getting the Library of Congress number and all the other stuff. This is just somebody who's basically in the middle of writing a book explaining to you why, if you're gonna write like this, your audience needs to be on the up and up with you so they give a shit.
And I'm just a person that likes talking about stories.
That's why I like having you on here. We can talk about stories all the time.
This is true. Unfortunately, I have not watched or read as many as you have, but I do my best.
And I appreciate that. Actually, let's circle all the way back to the magic system. In
Yeah.
Dragon Prince, again, you have to set up your magic system pretty early so that way the audience knows what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, so...
The audience needs to know enough about how the magic works so that the story works.
Right, like Paco's entire thing with conduits and the crystals and everything. That is a wonderful way to set up a magic system, especially if it's a long distance magic, like you're gonna need the help because you're too far away from the power source. Wonderful, 10 out of 10. Can't wait to read this story. Whereas mine, the vampires have their own version of magic that they can do, but every generation of vampires gets weaker with the magic to where the more modern the vampire, the only magic they can really do is just glamour themselves to look very appealing to the humans that they have to interact with, because they just want to look really pretty. Counterpoint to that, because my editor is one of my beta readers, he's like, the humans in this don't have magic. I was like, incorrect. If you listen to Sebastian later on in the book, he does admit that humans a long, long time ago had magic, but we stopped using it. And because we stopped using it and never passed on how to use it, even if you actually have magic now, you don't know how to get to it because you've never been taught how to get to it. And I'm like, right there, indicating that, yeah, a long time ago you guys had magic, and then you just stopped using it. Like, why would you know how to...
For some reason, we stopped using it, so now we can't unlock that part of the tech tree.
Right. And he does make it a point, spoilers I guess, because this is coming out way, way later. You do find out that the reason why humans stopped using magic is because so many people were being burned and killed for supposed quote-unquote witchcraft because they had magic. They stopped using it out of fear, and then that was just passed on generation after generation, just never use it. And by the time the burning of witches was done and over with, the people left had no basis to use it because they've never been taught how to.
Yep.
There it is. Through some shenanigans.
That I like that as an explanatory reason as well.
Aw, thanks. Well, because he makes it a point when she's like, I don't know, like, when the main male character, who's the king of vampires, tells her just unlock your magic, she looks at him and she goes, I don't know where there's a crystal shop around here. Do I need a fancy hat too? And like a cauldron? He looks at her and tells her, do you honestly assume witches were the only people that had magic? Right there derailing her misguided notion that only witches had magic. Like, no, that's not how that works.
Yeah. That's not how any of this works.
Right, and because he's, like, biblically old, right? Like, the Bible hadn't even been written by the time he was, like, born into a vampire. He's super old, so he's seen humanity through all of it. So when he's telling this, he's literally like, I I was there, Gandalf. I was there 3,000 years ago.
He is literally the I was there 3,000 years ago.
Right, and she always makes fun of him. She goes, fuck, you're old. But he is. Because he only looks like he's 35, people forget that he is wizened and wise, and he's super done with everybody's bullshit by the time you meet him in the book.
It's like thousands of years old. You don't look a day older than 30.
I remember when your mother was young. Oh yeah, she was a pious woman of God. No, she fucking wasn't. Who told you that?
Lies and slander.
Right. But legitimately, it's like, that was my explanation in the book. Because of the burning of witches throughout history, and for the record, right, if anybody would like to double check me on that, burning of witches was not just whenever the Christians were around. The burning of witches was any time that people were just not having it. Witch burning has been a thing for a long time.
Well, and one of the fascinating elements of that is that, at least when it comes to the Catholic Christian world, witch burning was a thing that kind of got introduced later on in that part of history, because of the exposure to non-Christian cultures during the Age of Colonization. So witch burning in the 1300s, not really a thing. Witch burning in the 1600s, definitely a thing. Right.
But the fact that they have been burning people for being different for any number of reasons isn't new.
That is absolutely true. We have always found excuses for burning people. It's just earlier in Christian history it was you are not the right kind of Christian. How dare you?
Right. And it's the reason why when she in the book makes a point to tell him, it's like, didn't my great whatever grandmother curse you to be bound to this family forever? He goes, yes. He goes, and do you want to know why she was very okay with suddenly shacking up with a 1,000-year-old vampire? It wasn't because she liked me. It was because I had a castle and bodyguards and an army behind me, and she didn't want to be burned at the stake because they found out really fast she was a witch. That's why she shacked up with me. Not because she liked me, because she had to. There's a huge difference between the narrative you think in your head and what actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, my editor made fun of me. He goes, that's such a dark reason, though. I was like, and yet, it is the most historically accurate version of this.
Yeah, and yet historically justifiable.
Right. I was like, if you get scared because, oh, well, the guy down the road was burned as a witch, for what? They saw him using magic, so they killed him. Maybe we should stop doing magic for a little while. Yeah. Maybe we should move too.
Yep. Oh yeah, historically that is definitely a completely justifiable rationale.
Right, and
there have been lots of behaviors of people that, due to persecution, people end up going, well, I guess I won't do that anymore.
Right, and the reason why, when Celestial was reading, he's still reading it actually right now, he was like, why is it so much of this book rings like it's an autobiography almost, but then other times it's just like a fantasy? And I was like, believe it or not, some of the scariest things in the world are actually based entirely in the real world. I have no reason to try and make them sound better in a fantasy setting when the actual history of it is fucked up enough. I don't have to do anything but copy paste off Wikipedia.
Yeah, we can just look at Game of Thrones. That is like a copy paste of the War of the Roses.
We don't talk about War of the Roses. George R.R. Martin gets mad at us when we do.
He gets mad when people remind him.
Which is not
I actually, if I may, I would like to talk about a thing that I did fact checking on yesterday.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Historical figure. Because it's about the historical figure, Julie I can't French. D'Aubigny. Anyhow, I ran across a thing on Tumblr that basically had a very short, hey, here's who this person was in the 17th century and here's what they did. And I was curious, so I looked into this person, and basically the shorthand description of how they described this person was incorrect. There were kernels of truth in all the different things that they were saying, but in the end, it's distorted so much as to be like factually wrong. And the sad thing is, the reality of who this person was in history is so much cooler than the shorthand false narrative that they created.
Yeah?
And that to me is very disappointing, where in order to try to create one specific, really Cliff Notes short history about a person, it actually ends up obfuscating a much more interesting and fascinating person's real life.
Yeah? I think this is why when people sit there and try and tell me it's like, oh, well, these women were so cool that when a conquering kingdom came and said they could take one thing with them on their back and they went to go get their husbands and stuff and they let them keep them, I was like, okay, you have literally spark noked the shit out of this. That's actually not what happened.
Yeah. Yep.
It wasn't just some random conquering kingdom. They'd been fighting for a while. They just finally got the W at the end. That's how that goes. And the guy did tell them you could take anything that you can feasibly carry. Most women took their sons that were of fighting age because they knew that that was realistically what they did. But they did not go back for their husbands that were in the dungeons. Like, they wouldn't have been able to get that far. They took what they could. They didn't take every man that they could feasibly carry.
Yeah.
The more you know, Star.
Yeah. And it's one of the things where, for me, as someone whose degree is in history, I find it disappointing how historical events can sometimes get simplified into a, hey, here's this really cool thing that happened, but in simplifying, it actually ends up covering up a cooler thing that happened.
Yeah, this is like when people try to spark notes how World War II started. I'm like, you guys are not listening to what the whole story is. Like, there was a lot of stuff preemptively before Hitler decided, let's invade Poland. There was a lot of stuff. It wasn't just one day he woke up, rolled out of bed, was eating his Cheerios, and was like, I'm gonna invade Poland today.
Yeah. You know what? Let's invade Poland.
There was a lot of stuff that preceded it. It's just nobody ever wants to talk about it because it sounds cooler that he was just a crazy guy who decided, I'm gonna start a war for no reason. There was a reason.
There were reasons. They were bad reasons, but they were reasons.
Which is why we're talking about World War I, which is my favorite war, is so much more interesting because that literally reads like a Mad Lib that somebody was trying to get together while they were drunk. Like, there are so many inconsistencies in this war.
Well, and World War I is also one of those conflicts where it's okay, so how did this start? Okay, how far back in history do you want to go?
Right? It's like, there was a lot of stuff that preceded this. Like, how much history? How much time do you have?
How much time do you have? And which version of the Cliff Notes do you want?
Which is why it's a much more interesting war to me, is because there was a lot of stuff. There was so much stuff. This is like listening to the teenage dramas of like 3 different high school classes all in the same high school.
Yeah. Yep. And World War I, in contrast to World War II, like in World War II, that one is reasonably clear-cut on, like, okay, these countries were definitely the bad guys, and these countries were definitely the good guys.
Except Russia. Russia was just, fuck it, I don't care.
Yeah, except, like, the USSR is the wild card in terms of, like, you know what, like, they sucked. We fought with them. They helped us defeat the Nazis. Like, well done, but otherwise, like, yeah, they not great.
Right.
But World War I is more of a war of like, well, all of you suck pretty much equally.
Right? It's like, I imagine it like this, like, okay, so Britannia totally doesn't want me to tell you this, but I'm going to tell you it anyway. They were totes cheating on you with Prussia, but Prussia doesn't want you to know that they're cheating on Britannia with, like, Italy. But you didn't hear that from me. Germany, why do you know so much shit about everybody constantly?
Yeah. And it's like in World War One, with the various countries involved, is also a like, yep, we have stacked a Jenga tower of
Mistakes.
different, well, this happened, so this, and this happened, so this, and we have this Jenga tower that kind of works in terms of keeping the general peace.
And then what happened?
Please don't remove any individual block.
And then what happened? And then we took out Franz Ferdinand, the man, not the man.
Yeah. Then we took out this block, and the whole tower collapsed. But it could have been any one of any number of blocks.
It was just this guy specifically that set everything off.
Yeah, it's like that just happened to be the block that got removed, as opposed to any of a dozen other ones.
Yeah. World War II. I'm sick and tired of hearing about it. It's a very clean-cut war, and I don't want to talk about it anymore. World War I. Oh boy. Sit down and let me tell you the telenovela of this war.
Let me tell you a tale.
Gather around the Snapchat, children. Let me tell you a tale.
And of course, like, it is possible to go into World War II with a lot of, like, complexity, but no one does. Like, that isn't how World War II gets told.
Right, we could sit there and talk to you about the fact that Hitler was technically somebody who did fight in World War I, became destitute because of the war, and the fact that they just had absolutely abysmal anything because France took Germany for every last penny in the divorce, and then everything else that happened with it. We can go into it. You just don't want to hear about it.
Yeah. Like, it's a look, the ending of this other war created the conditions for the next one because X, Y, and Z. But that's not nearly as interesting as in terms of retelling history as Hitler bad.
Right. The story...
Because we can all agree, yes, Hitler was bad.
But again, I like to bring this up to people. It's like, guys, Hitler was bad. Nobody's going to sit there and argue against that except some very, very specific people, but we don't talk about them in polite company.
We don't talk about those people.
We definitely don't talk about those people on my channel. Stay away from my channel. Go on, get.
Go on, get.
But Hitler, for all intents and purposes, before he had his megalomania streak, was just some guy.
Was a dude.
Just some dude who ran for office, won, and decided, I want to change the country, and then decided, for whatever fucking reason, the Jewish people were to blame. I would like you to explain your flowchart.
Yeah. I would really like the flow chart of why anti-Semitism. But that is another one of those. Well, how far back in history do you want to go?
Legitimately, do you want to come with me into the time machine? No. Then we can't explain this to you with any kind of degree of certainty if we don't go into the time machine.
Yeah, if we don't take the time machine, you're only going to get a very Cliff Notes version.
Right. Which I would take a Cliff Notes version in Dragon Prince. Shit, I don't know anything that's going on.
Can we get the Cliff Notes of Dragons before episode 5?
All I know is that somehow the humans were bad, they got kicked out of the Magic Land, somehow we are responsible for the death of the Dragon King. No, they don't explain how that happened, they just say it is so and they move on, and I'm like, but why? But why though? Explain it to me.
Yeah. And sure, in Avatar: The Last Airbender, they don't really explain then the Fire Nation attacked. But I don't think that's really necessary for the story.
They actually do end up explaining it. They explain to you what king specifically...
In episode 1?
No, but they do explain it to you bit by bit throughout the story, and then they have a very Zuko-centric episode that tells you everything to fill in all the leftover blank spaces of how the war started.
Yeah, sorry, to clarify my point, they don't tell you right at the beginning of the story.
Ah, right.
But I think at the beginning of the story, it's not really necessary to know that. In contrast to the Dragon Prince where that context seems to be more important for understanding the beginning of that story.
Yeah, if the killing of the Dragon King was specifically got the ball rolling on us humans being exiled from the land of magic, awesome. How did we do it? Like, even just a bullshit version of a great and powerful mage full of dark magic felled the Dragon King, and as his tradition, all the humans get kicked out because you guys are kind of assholes. I would even take that as an explanation. Like, cool.
Yeah.
Is that true? We could find out if it's the truth or not, but we don't even get to that point. I'm on episode 4 of season 1, and I know nothing other than the fact that this human boy has a fat crush on this elf girl. I think this one kid might be on, like, Quaaludes. He is always talking to nothing. I think he's talking to air constantly every episode. The evil wizard and his evil wizard daughter, who's not an evil wizard, she's a flower child, are trying to kill the king. That's it. That's all I've got so far.
That's what we got. That's what we got in the notebook.
That's all we've got, and it makes me mad is because I'm like, I would like more info, please. Why is the evil wizard guy trying to kill the king? Because he's a bro that doesn't want to go to war? Because he does want to... Explain it to me. Explain it to me.
Well, we've already identified him as the evil wizard. What more do you need, Hella?
Not all evil wizards have a point in their story. We're not writing fucking Lord of the Rings where Sauron was just an evil wizard. Amen, let's move on. Somebody who's really into, what do you call it? The Lord of the Rings and like J.R. Tolkien stuff is about to fucking be in my comments and be like, actually, that's not the truth.
Yeah.
Like,
Hold on. How dare you oversimplify Sauron like that?
Okay, you want me to make it a little bit more, like, copacetic? Fine. He was an evil wizard because he fell in love with the evil other wizard who was kind of like a demigod, because they were totes boyfriends. No, for realsy, stop laughing. Oh, I'm still gonna get that comment. Go.
It's like, oh no, that comment is still happening. Oh dear.
Yeah, it's still gonna happen. Because no offense, I was never a hardcore J.R.R. Tolkien fan. I really only got introduced because of the Lord of the Rings movies back in 2007 with Orlando Bloom and Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah, I too got introduced to the Lord of the Rings universe through the movies. I read The Hobbit. I tried to read the Lord of the Rings books. Sorry, Tolkien needed an editor.
Tolkien, can we get out of the forest? I'm sick of being in the trees.
Look, I, as far as I got in book 1, I never left the Shire. I was still in the Shire when I gave up.
You could never be Frodo Baggins. He did leave the Shire.
Yep.
No, but again, right? At least we get out of the Shire. So far, these kids have been out of the kingdom for at least, I think, like 3-4 days. And I don't think we've gotten anywhere. Like, story-wise, I don't think we've gotten anywhere.
That the story has actually progressed beyond the opening premise.
We're still trying to transport the dragon egg. That's all we've got so far. This dragon egg seems to be a MacGuffin of, I think it's just a really brightly colored rock and you guys are being fucked with.
But look, here's a shiny ring. It has some lettering on it when you put it in the fire. You need to take this from point A to point B.
Wonderful. How long is that going to take? In movie universe, about a couple months. In book universe, like 6 years. Excuse me?
Yeah,
Why did it take so long?
A while.
Why does it take so long? You guys go through it. Oh, okay. And then we spend an unnecessarily long time hanging out with Tom Bombadil. Tom Bombadil sounds like the alias a drug dealer uses when he's in, like, Wisconsin.
What's your name? Tom?
Tom what?
Bombadil?
Like from Lord of the Rings? Fuck.
Yes.
Alright.
My parents were big fans.
Uh, but no. Again, Dragon Prince, it's okay so far. Maybe I'm just too old that it's skipping me really hard. But also, no. There's so much missing from this story, and I want to know more. I want to be part of this universe so badly, and I can't get into it. It's like trying to
Please, the Dragon Prince, give me something to latch on to more.
It's like trying to shove a baby sock onto your big toe. It's not gonna work. That sock's gonna rip. Like, we can try. We'll give it our best effort. But it's not gonna work.
Well, are you going to continue to work your way through the rest of the series?
I am, because I want to at least give it, the benefit of the doubt that maybe it's just skipping me hard because they're floundering on purpose and revelations are coming later on in the pipeline, in which case I would like to be proven wrong. However, I'm really hoping that this animation gets better. It's rough.
Well, that's fair.
Like,
Maybe we can have a future tea time where we discuss the later events as they happen.
Yeah, well...
Where I also will probably still have not watched any of it and going entirely off of your your assessment.
Oh, the next time I finally talk to you about it, that egg was a fucking dud. I was right. It was a rock.
It was a rock the whole time.
And I knew it. No, my editor, because I don't mind spoilers for stuff, like people that get mad at spoilers, I'm like, why? Are you just never gonna watch it? Is that why you don't want spoilers? Like...
Yeah, I don't mind spoilers for things, especially for things that I'm not likely to watch. And also, like, when it comes to spoilers for something that has been out for 4 or 5 years, look, it's been 4 or 5 years. I have given up my opportunity to not be spoiled on a thing.
Right. Like, I know... because of when we're doing this tea time, I just got done putting out a video on the channel where I talk about Death Standing, which I'm like, it's been a while since that game has been out, but I just finally got around to playing it. You know right now, being that late to the game, oh my god, I'd never had such an easy time going through levels because everybody left so much stuff for me. No, legitimately, I was like, I only have one piece of ladder to my name. Goes around corner. Oh shit! It only needs one piece of ladder and I can get to the top. Thank you, other people who left this behind.
Thank you, people from the past.
Legitimately, like, sometimes it's really good to be late to stuff because after all the hot core criticism has boiled down, you could just sneak in late to the party with a Starbucks and be like, so... you guys were a little quick on the jump. It's not that bad.
It's like, so, where do we go?
Yeah, I made a whole video describing Death Standing and just being like, you guys are really hard on Hideo Kojima for absolutely no fucking reason. He's not that bad of a person to give you stories. They're a little long, I'll give you that, but they're not bad.
Mm-hmm.
You know what is a bad game, and I'll die on this hill? Beyond Two Souls, that's a bad game.
That one isn't ringing bells for me. Beyond Two Souls?
Yeah, it has Elliot Page pre-transition and William Dafoe.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, I remember that game being advertised. I remember nothing about it other than the fact that Elliot Page and William Dafoe were in it.
I played it.
Or, I guess, voicing it.
Yeah, I played it. You play as a girl whose dead twin is still attached to her, a la Ghost style, but, like, legitimately attached to her, like, with an umbilical cord, and she can, like, get to the other side that is full of monsters that are fucking the world up hardcore, and William Dafoe is the guy that's running the program to get them back in, and it's weird. Like, you play through this whole girl's whole life, like, from childhood to young adult, and it's just, I don't like the choices that are being made in this game that I have no opinion on.
Mm-hmm. That is also a weird premise.
Like, the idea that you're a twin that survived, but your twin that passed is still somehow connected to you, that sounds like a cool idea for, like, a superpower.
Yep.
Just
Yeah.
not this specifically.
Yeah, not how it was executed.
Yeah. It was weird. I don't even want to try to find clips on YouTube, because I'm like... There's just so much in this game to talk about, and the game itself is pretty fucking boring, actually. Like, for whatever reason, this girl wants to go to Quantico and go be an FBI agent, and I'm like, but why? where was this sudden urge to be an FBI agent throughout the whole game? I've been playing
Where is
it.
this motivation coming from?
Right. The motivation comes out of kind of left field when she's in high school, and you're like, one should not base their life off of high school decisions. Like, high school me wanted to go be a deep sea diver and go fight sharks. High school me was an idiot.
Yeah, high school me at one point wanted to be a youth pastor. Good thing that I didn't choose that route.
Paco, sit down and let me tell you about the Vietnam War. Back in Nam. Why is he constantly talking to us about Nam? Was he there? No.
No. Just pretend. Although, like, by the end of high school, the thing that I wanted to do was be a social studies teacher to teach history, which
Nice.
is what I got my degree in, and then did not do. As it turns out that I didn't really have, at least at the time when I was 22, 23, the mental fortitude or personality for controlling a classroom.
Don't worry, most of us don't. But, yeah, I can't think of anything else I have to say on the Dragon Prince, though. It was very eh. Like, so far it's very we'll come back to this if it gets better. If I find out it's actually a rock, I'm gonna laugh and be like, I knew it! I
predicted the future.
Right, just be like, I knew it! Go on, I knew it!
Judging by the promotional materials that I was looking at earlier today, where there is in fact a dragon in those promotional materials, I suspect that it probably is actually a dragon. But
I know, but it's like...
we'll see which of us is correct.
Right, you were probably right, but also at the same time I'm like, get to the point of this magic system, because it's aggravating the shit out of me right now. I'm about to write these people at the Netflix office and be like, let me write for you.
I can do this, I swear.
Can do it better than you do. Like, guys, please.
I don't know if my cat's meow got picked up by the mic.
Oh, mine's been staring at me, and I've just been hardcore ignoring her. So.
Yeah, mine has also been staring at me and occasionally crawling onto my lap.
Father, please. We must go commit war crimes for the pudding cups.
Can we please do the war crimes for pudding cups? No, I think that it's actually a can you please put food in my food dish.
That's fair. Well, we can end it right here because I don't have anything else to say about it. Thank you guys so much for coming to this incredibly long tea time.
Well, thank you for having me again.
Oh.
I have really enjoyed our meandering journey through the Dragon Prince to a bunch of other different media entities.
We always brought it back to the
events.
Dragon Prince, though. That's the main thing. Like, we never lost
Yeah.
sight of it. We were waffling around it for a long time.
Yep.
Just like the show is waffling around this fucking plot.
And we're back on topic again.
Bye. Thank you guys so much for coming.
Bye-bye.